close to 4 months after Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso announcing on January 29, 2024, their withdrawal from the Economic Community of West African States, a move that was immediately followed by a highlight of the consequences that the countries will face, if indeed they will go ahead to formalize their exit from the regional bloc. Mali has started reviewing the impacts of that withdrawal, and determine if it will rejoin the bloc, or deliberate on how it will cope with the same, if it will instead focus on strengthening the now famous alliance of Sahel states. The Sahel country, which is under a military leadership that's headed by Colonel Assimi Goita, just like Niger and Burkina Faso, has tabled all the realities emanating from the withdrawal, as it seeks to assess their impact on its people and economy going into the future. We say this because, on the Saturday of April 13, 2024, 20 ministers in Colonel Assimi Goita's administration held a critical summit, in which they reviewed the political, economic, social and security consequences of that withdrawal, so as to find an ideal framework that will guide his administration on dealing with the same going into the future. Chairing the meeting was the Malian Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Abdoulaye Diop, and before we proceed to looking at a fresh warning to the Sahel militaries from the ECOWAS chiefs, take a listen at what he said about their meeting in this brief address to the media. In January, Mali with Burkina and Niger decided to leave ECOWAS with immediate effect. And after this decision, the highest authorities, in particular His Excellency Colonel Assimi Goita, President of the Transition and Head of State, and the Prime Minister, instructed members of the government concerned to put everything in place to be able to manage this withdrawal process, and work to implement the strategy defined by the government, and the action plans necessary to be able to manage this process, while preserving the interests of Mali. It is in this context that we convened this first meeting, in consultation with the Minister of State, to be able to bring together around 20 members of the government, who are all concerned by the matter, and each was able before the meeting to share with us the impact of this decision. We also carried out a careful assessment of this impact, but we also have a certain number of proposed actions to be able to prepare for this and remedy this situation. Today's meeting was essentially around these issues, and it was agreed to formalize this structure in terms of a committee responsible for managing the withdrawal process at 2 levels. That is, at a ministerial level, as was the case today, and also at a technical level, where we'll have an evaluation and monitoring committee, which will try to look at all the behaviors, the political dimensions, the security dimensions, the economic dimensions, and how this whole process will happen, because there are several types of questions that arise. Because there are questions that concern the free movement of people and goods, there are questions that concern economic integration, there are questions that concern organizations that are affiliated with ECOWAS, questions on passports, and on the financial impacts. At the country level, and especially on how to ensure that through this process, we can also evaluate together the opportunities and the political and economic benefits for the country, as well as in terms of commercial policies. So, it is all of these questions that were the subject of discussions. This meeting by the Malian cabinet to evaluate the realities of ECOWAS exit came just 8 days after the ECOWAS Commission President, Omar Aliou Touré, warning that the 3 countries' exit risked jeopardizing a continuation of projects worth close to $1 billion. That is, projects that are currently underway in cooperations between ECOWAS and the governments in question, or private companies in those countries. Speaking from Abuja, at the inauguration of the 6th ECOWAS Parliament on the Thursday of April 4, 2024, Dr. Omar Aliou Touré said that the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development currently has 27 ongoing public sector projects in the 3 countries, valued at approximately $321.6 million, and their exit could result in default, or suspension of all other ECOWAS projects and programs in the countries, worth more than $500 million.
Our region is now faced with the risks of disintegration. As you all know, on 29th of January this year, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger notified the ECOWAS Commission of their intention to leave ECOWAS with immediate effect. Our people, the people of West Africa, have lived in one integrated ECOWAS community for several decades now. Our people have enjoyed freedom of movement in our ECOWAS space. Our people have begun to see the benefit of our common market, where original products are traded freely in a market of 400 million people. Our people also move about with a common passport and a common biometric identity card. The disintegration will not only disturb the freedom of movement and establishment of people, it will also aggravate insecurity of the region. More specifically, the withdrawal will affect security cooperation in terms of sharing intelligence and participation in regional counter-terrorism and other security initiatives, such as the Accra Initiative and the Multinational Joint Task Force. The withdrawal may also lead to diplomatic and political isolation at the international scene, where the countries have obtained bloc support for their candidates and candidatures in the contest for international positions within the African Union, the United Nations, and similar bodies. The withdrawal will also affect the immigration status of the citizens, as they may be required to obtain visa to travel around the region. Citizens may no longer be able to reside or set up businesses under ECOWAS arrangement and may be subject to diverse national laws. The three countries will also cease to use ECOWAS passports, ECOWAS biometric national ID cards, and the region-wide ECOWAS brown card vehicle insurance. On the economic and finance front, the withdrawal of the three states could result in the halt or suspension of all ECOWAS projects and programs in these countries worth more than $500 million US. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it should be noted that the two regional financial institutions of ECOWAS, EBID and BOAD, have considerable exposure in the three countries. ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, EBID, currently has 27 ongoing public sector projects in the three countries, valued at approximately $321.6 million. At the institutional level, it should be noted that the withdrawal will not only require the closure of 4 regional entities in Burkina Faso, 2 regional bodies in Mali, and 1 regional office in Niger. It will also affect the job security of some 130 ECOWAS staff who are citizens of the three countries. 77 from Burkina Faso, 23 from Mali, and 32 from Niger. Distinguished incoming members of Parliament, it is the dire consequences of the disintegration on the citizens that inform the decision of the authority of heads of state and government under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu to open dialogue with the three countries with a view to maintaining the unity of ECOWAS. It is for this reason that the ECOWAS authority at their last session also directed that the representatives of the people continue to play their role in the ECOWAS Parliament. This is why we have invited representatives from all the countries in transition to join the ECOWAS Parliament.
According to Article 91 of the ECOWAS revised treaty, Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso were required to give to the Executive Secretary of the bloc a 1-year notice in writing before leaving, and during this period, they were required to continue complying with the provisions of the treaty, and were to remain bound to discharge its obligations. However, when reminded about the article by Dr. Omar Aliou in February this year, the three states said that they would not wait a year to leave the bloc as is required by the bloc's treaty, because ECOWAS itself had violated the treaty by imposing punitive sanctions, including border closures, on Mali and Niger following their coups d'état. The swift departure has raised pressing questions on the future of millions of nationals from the three poor and landlocked nations, who have settled, and are working in neighboring states, since the bloc allows visa-free travel and right to work. And according to economic and geopolitical experts, withdrawing from ECOWAS is likely to have major consequences on the regional economy as a whole, and specifically on Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, whereby, because of their landlocked situation, the Sahel countries will be more affected by the exit more than the rest of the region, by the reintroduction of tariff barriers. And without free access to the ports of Cotonou, Lomé, Abidjan or Tema, in the Gulf of Guinea, the Sahel countries' imports like cement, petroleum products, cars, textiles, wheat, rice and even plastics will be far more expensive than they are today. Anyway, are you in support of this withdrawal from the bloc and would like to see the three countries work on strengthening their alliance of Sahel states? Leave your thoughts on the developments in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe before leaving, because more updates on what's happening in this region are coming.